Hey, it's Mr. A, back at you with another art video. Today I'll be going over how to draw a simple chair using one-point perspective. Since I want to be able to view these from a slightly downward angle, I'm going to raise my horizon line up near the top of the page. Making sure that it's horizontal, I'm going to lightly draw a line in for reference, and then I'm going to carefully locate the vanishing point near the center of that line. To begin the drawing, I'm trying to envision where I'm going to place my first chair. I'm going to place it on the right side and begin with a converging line that will end up being the front corner of that seat. The first shape that we're trying to create is the square that's going to represent the seat of the chair. I made a horizontal line that connected with the first line, and I'd place a second one. But on looking at it again, I noticed that it's going to be a little bit too far away, making the chair look too wide. So I move it down a little bit, making an adjustment, and putting another horizontal line before closing off the shape of the seat with another converging line. With the square of the seat established, I'm going to now extend vertical lines down from each corner, which will represent the legs. On the side of the chair that faces directly towards the viewer, I've drawn those in approximately the same length. But I need to figure out, using a converging line, how far to drop this vertical line down. That new intersection is the far left corner of the chair. And now with a horizontal line, I can make sure that the front legs there are the same length. Think of this cube we've created as a container for all of the features before I move into creating the thickness of that seat. Starting with a converging line, I'm creating the depth of that wood that will represent the area that you would sit on. I'm wrapping it around using a horizontal line. The legs represent 4 rectilinear shapes that extend up from the corners we just mapped out. However, we didn't take the time to match up where that back corner, that's going to be somewhat covered up by the seat, where that lands on the ground. So using a converging line and a horizontal, I can pin down that point in space. The next step will be to define how wide the front part of those legs are going to be. So I made a mark on the front horizontal line and extended that over to the right edge. Whenever you make a measurement, it's important to remember that you can extend that measurement out into space using converging lines, horizontal or vertical, depending where they start off. I did just that with converging, and now I'm extending horizontal lines to map out squares where those lines intersect. Those will be the footprint of the legs of the chair. The new intersections or corners that I created are going to form a place where a vertical line can extend upward to mate with the top seat of the chair. Start by extending those lines upward from those new corners we created. The main challenge when drawing something that overlaps in space is knowing when to cut the lines off. In this case, we have an opaque or non-see-through object, so we can't see parts of the back legs. However, if this chair were for some reason made out of glass, you might be able to see those lines extend all the way back up into that right corner. If you were trying to draw a table, this form would be basically complete, but we're going to extend some of those lines on the right side to create the backing construction for the chair. So using the same lines, we're going to continue through the seat form and start off on the side that's closest to us to establish the height of the back of the chair. Using the new intersection with the seat, I'm going to extend the measurement across the face of that seat. But because I haven't established a set height for the back, I'm going to place a line and then extend those 2 corners towards the vanishing point to create a guideline for how tall the far side of it will appear to be. As with many instances, I generally overdraw my converging lines in some cases to figure out where they'll be intersected by a horizontal or vertical line in this case, and trim those up for me. If you've done it correctly, it should come together and be able to be capped off with a perfect horizontal line. Now, if you wanted a chair with a solid back, this would be a good stopping point. However, we're going to do some cleanup before moving on to creating what we call the negative space, or the cutaway into this basic form of the backing. First, we'll begin by using a converging line to set the height of the solid section as it meets what's going to be the opening. Right now it extends across the whole form, but it's going to be interrupted by where the legs extend through the seat and intersect with the top solid section of the back. Instead of mapping out the squares where it might intersect with the seat, I'm simply lining up my vertical line with the geometry of the foot where it meets the floor. Those vertical lines will intersect with the chair right where it needs to. You'll end up with some good intersections that will be able to be completed with a horizontal line. With the front-facing leg, we'll do the same thing, carefully lining it up to keep it parallel and extending it through the converging line we created. And since we can't see through that part of the chair, we don't have to complete it with that back corner. Now I'm just going to clean this thing up with an eraser, but this is just about it. We've completed a very geometric, but very concise and accurate illusion of a chair. However, if you had to sit in this chair for over 15 minutes, you'd probably walk away with an aching back. So if you're interested in learning to draw more complex forms like this chair, check out my playlist called 1 Point Perspective. Thanks for watching. This has been Art with Anderson, and I'll catch you next time. Don't forget to like and subscribe, and leave a comment if you have a suggestion or an idea for a future video.